Okay, we're going to try to get through all of the annotation and dimensioning in this tutorial. Hopefully we can make it. Okay, the first thing I want to do is turn off my points so that I can see where the text for the annotation is going. So in order to do this, you need to go to your tool space, under the Settings tab, go to Point Styles, and right-click on your point style. In this point style standard box, under the Display tab, it'll tell you what layer your marker and label are going to. I changed mine to point. So yours may not be changed, and this is where you tell what layer your points went to. So go there to find that. And so I'm going to go into my layers, and I'm going to turn off my points layer. So you can see that all my points disappeared, but something else disappeared. My section line, subdivision lines disappeared because when I drew them on the points layer. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to select these, and you can see as I select them that this layer pops up. That's the current layer that those selected items are on. So I'm going to move them. I have them all selected. I'm going to move them over to my section line layer. So I just click on SL, and it now has those items on that SL layer. I'm going to hit Escape to clear the selection, and now my current layer is dim. Okay? So now I can go in here, go down to the PNTS layer and turn it off, and just the points disappear. My lines are now there because they're on the section line layer where they belong. Okay, in the last tutorial we talked about our scale being 1 to 200. So we have that now, 1 inch equals 200. And so that's going to give us a basis for some of our dimensioning. Alright, let's go to the Annotate tab. The first thing we're going to do is annotate our and label our property line. So we go to Add Label, down to Line and Curve, Add Line and Curve Labels, and we want to do multiple segment because it's a polyline, has multiple segments, and we want to choose our line label style. If you edited your standard to look correctly, that's fine. If you moved over those other label styles into this template, then choose bearing over distance. And you can say Add, and now it's asking you to select what you want to label. I select my polyline, and everything's labeled. It's done. Note that when you choose multiple segment, it automatically centers the label over the midpoint. But if you choose single segment and you add, it places the label where you click. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, the next thing we want to annotate, I have on the list for our assignment, is the section corners to the property line. So when you're doing a survey and you're following somebody else's, you want to know where's the section corner and what bearing and distance do I need to go to get to the property line. So I like to annotate those section corners, bearings and distances to the property line. And in this situation, we're going to choose single segment. And again, I'm going to choose bearing over distance. I'm going to add it, and remember, it will place the bearing and distance on the line where I select. So I'm going to choose right there, and I want to know this is going to label from the southwest corner of the section all the way to the center. That's fine. I'm going to place it there. And this one will label to that northwest corner. That's fine. I'll place it there. And this one will label to the center. I don't want to label to the center. I want to label to this point. And it's just a personal preference. So I'm going to break that line. Choose Break at Point. I'm going to break this object at this point. Okay, so that's done. Now my segment is just to that 40-acre corner. So I'm going to go ahead and add my annotation to that about the midpoint. Okay? So that should be sufficient enough for the annotation of the lines. Now we're going to start annotating from the fence corners to the property line. So one thing I've noticed is that my scale for my lines is not quite right. If I go over here and look, then you really can't see the X's on there. So I'm going to have to adjust my line type scale. So I'm going to hit LT scale at the command line, and it's telling me it's 0.1. Now if we follow that rule that I gave you once before, that it's 1/5 of the drawing scale, then your LT scale would be 40. Let's try that. That does not work. It makes the X's disappear. It just doesn't work. I'm not sure what's going on with that, so I'm just going to play around with it until I find one that does. I know that 0.1 looks pretty good, but I want them a little bigger, so I'm going to try 0.2. And it's okay, but it's still not great. So let's try it again. I'm going to try 0.4. That's better. I think I can live with 0.4. And again, this is just a guessing game. You can start with some standards, but really you just want it to look right. And so you've got to keep adjusting that until it looks right to you. I'm satisfied with 0.4. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so where were we? We were going to annotate from the fence quarter to the property line. So we go back to our Annotate tab, and this is the dimensioning that we did before. And if you named your dimension styles building and fence, that should be really nice, but I just left mine annotative and building. Building's different than the rest of them, so I'm going to go back to annotative, and I'm going to go ahead and select an aligned dimension, and I'm going to start annotating. Okay, so I want to know how far this fence corner is to that property line. So I'm going to select the first line origin. This is the end point here, and the second is perpendicular to that. And I'm just going to place it right there, and now it's saying 2.9 feet from that section corner to the property line. And now I'm going to do another one. I just right click, and you can see that my symbol is covering up what I want to view, but I know that that's the intersection of that fence corner and that property line. So I'm going to select there to the end point of that line. Now I know that that is 2.7 feet south of the property corner, and I'm going to right click to start that command again, and I'm going to go actually I'm not, because I just need to know how far south it was. There's not a corner there, it's just the property line or the fence line itself. But I can dimension from this corner down this way, so let's do that. So we're going to go to the end point of that line, and you could select perpendicular, or you could select the intersection of where the fence line crosses the property line. I'm just going to choose perpendicular. And I'm going to make sure my arrows aren't overlapping each other so that they're easier to see. I'm going to go all the way down here, and it's going to tell me that it's a 50.2 feet. Also note that wherever you select first, the second place that you select on the dimension is the side that the text will fall. So if I went from here to here, the text would be on this side. It's easy enough to change that though. You can just select it and move that around if you want. Okay, let's go down to this fence corner. And let's go ahead and select Align Dimension again. And I'm gonna dimension how far this intersection is to the property line. I want to go perpendicular. And there's no fence corner, so I don't need to do the east-west dimension. I just needed to see the north-south dimension. Okay, and now let's go down here and let's see how far that is. And this time I'm going to choose the property corner first, and I'm going to go perpendicular to the fence. You can see that it's 3.9 feet, and I'm also going to dimension from the cross here. And there's no real science to this. I'm going to choose to the endpoint. You just, after lots of practice, you'll figure out what the surveyor you're working for wants to see. But you know, your property owners want to know how far the fences are from the corner. So I try to give them as much information as I can at each fence corner. But that's it for the fence corners. So now let's go ahead and dimension the building. Now one thing to keep in mind is that, as you'll notice, the text is kind of big because we use 200 scale because we needed to show this road down here. Generally you have to show the road all the way down to a county road because I want to show access to the property to a local or public road. This is probably a private drive, and there's probably an easement on it. We're not going to get into that in this class, but there's probably an easement all the way down to this county road. But we needed to show the county road. We needed to show how they're going to access the property from a public road. And so that made our property quite small on the drawing, and and so our text for our annotation and dimension is going to be kind of large. So when we get ready to do this, I have a feeling that it is going to look a little funny, but we'll see. Let's try it, and then I'll kind of tell you what you can do about it. Let's go ahead. I've changed that to building. I'm going to do an align dimension from corner to corner. And already you can see that text is quite large. But let's see if we can move it around. And I think it fits okay. Again, I think I changed my size of my settings. So let me see what I've got it set at. Text size at 0.07. So if yours is larger, you may not be able to fit it in there. In that case, you might just do a leader that says 30 foot by 60 foot. But if it's small enough to fit on there, just leave it on there like I've got it. I just undid that. Okay, so we've got that dimension, but we do need to state, generally on the plat, we need to state what kind of building that is, especially for a loan survey. And I'm not talking about mortgage inspection. I'm talking an actual survey for a lender. You want to state what kind of building that is on the property, and we generally just label all buildings on all of our plats. So I'm going to choose the multi-leader, just like I did, and you can select somewhere inside of it. You can select the corner, but I like to choose inside of it to make sure that I know which building I'm talking about. There might be several buildings on the plat. And what I'm going to say is this is a one-story brick.